Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining us this evening from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1 Cheryl Elston. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of the following schools: from Victoria, St Joseph's Kurundai, and from New South Wales, St John's Preston. If you are able, would you now please stand and join in singing the national anthem? Those requiring a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best described as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private William George Jacob. William Jacob was born in Cootingal in 1896, the son of George and Mary Jacob. The second eldest of 8 children, William received his education at the local Tanglewood Public School, where he enjoyed participating in sport. Jacob went on to follow in his father's footsteps, becoming a farmer. He enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 21st of August 1916 when he was 19 years old. He was assigned to the 36th Battalion and embarked aboard the troop ship Benalla on the 9th of November. Jacob arrived in England in January 1917 and was initially admitted to hospital, having fallen ill on the journey to Europe. After recovering, he spent many months training before joining his unit on the Western Front in April. In June, Jacob's unit took part in its first major action on the Battle of Messines. The Allied objective was to capture the German-occupied high ground along Messines, which had been fortified with multiple defensive positions. The high ground also gave the enemy a strategic vantage point from which to observe the Allied lines. In the early hours of the morning on the 7th of June, 19 mines laid in tunnels dug beneath the German positions were detonated, signalling the beginning of the battle. The advancing troops were heavily shelled and were targeted by fierce machine gun fire, but were successful in taking their objectives. By the 14th of June, Allied forces had taken control of the ridge, but its capture had come at an enormous cost, with the Allies sustaining more than 25,000 casualties. The 36th Battalion alone had more than 400 killed, missing or wounded. Among them was Private William Jacob. Jacob's parents were informed of their son's death some days later, but did not receive any further details. This news was a hard blow. Jacob was the only one of their 8 children that had made it to adulthood. His father wrote to base records and pleading for further details. We, as his parents, would be greatly comforted if you could supply us any circumstances which would give us some knowledge as to the condition under which his great sacrifice was made. Further inquiries into the young private's death were made through the Red Cross, which discovered that Jacob had been killed during the 36th advance on La Poterie farm on the 10th of June. A letter from a sergeant in his battalion read, "He was killed on the 10th of June by an explosion of an enemy shell. He was brought back to our front line trench, but died a few minutes after being carried in." Private William George Jacob was buried at Messines Ridge British Cemetery, where he fell. He was just 20 years old. The Tamworth Daily Observer noted his passing in the following month. The young soldier, who was not quite 21 years of age, was a fine stamp of young Australian manhood, and his many friends and chums will be deeply grieved to learn that he has made the great sacrifice. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private William George Jacob, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.